You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible.
The CDC has identified a case of coronavirus in Washington state. The words about a pandemic at this point?
No, we're not at all, and it's going to be just fine. Whatever happens, we're totally prepared.
We, the scientists, knew what to do for the pandemic response. The plan was in front of us, but leadership would not do it. It is time to lay our careers on the line and push back.
It's clear the United States did not perform to the best of its ability with the coronavirus.
What went wrong for us?
The truth is that political leaders caused avoidable death and destruction.
The scientists sounded the alarm every day. The U.S. government was doing nothing.
One day it's like a miracle, it will disappear. It'll be wonderful, it'll be a gift from heaven.
It's complete bullshit. He has no idea what he's talking about.
I decided to break protocol and alert Americans.
A key government scientist was removed because he wouldn't climb on the president's bandwagon.
They'd started to blame other people, and it was frightening. There was real fear of retribution, and we were watching the number of deaths in the U.S. tick higher and higher.
Do you take responsibility?
No, I don't take responsibility at all.
We've never had a failure like this.
The truth is finally coming out.
There's so much to expose.
We have it totally under control.
Those are some of the viral ads that were dropped in response to Trump and coronavirus, really from a debate on Tuesday. Today, Joe Biden, he spoke in Grand Rapids, Michigan, where he talked about coronavirus, but also he talked about health care.
Hey, folks. Good afternoon. Before I start, let me explain the delay. We wanted to make sure that we're doing everything by the numbers. And so I got two COVID tests this morning, one in Delaware and one by the former White House doc who came up, and everything is clear. We wanted to make sure everything was clear before I came. And we were supposed to have an event after this at a headquarters, but based on the crowd size and an indoor, it was concluded by the docs that best not to do it. But I want to thank all of you. I want to thank Matt. And Matt, you're dead right. You were putting yourself on the line, and a lot of other people did all across this country in your union. And I want to thank David Way, Secretary Treasurer of Local 951, for having me here today. Look, I'd like to start by acknowledging.
The reason I wanted to show that is because we talked about folks who are just joining us. Of course, Donald Trump is now at Walter Reed Medical Center after testing positive for coronavirus. It is important there, Rob, for Joe Biden to give that speech wearing his mask, because in moments like this, you need leadership. He talked about at the opening there in terms of how they involve in testing as well. He's wearing that N95 mask. People follow leadership. And then when leaders disavow masks and disavow social distancing, the rest of the public is like, well, what the hell? If it's good for them, it's good for me. This is exactly the kind of leadership we need right now.
Yep. Well, so goes the leadership, so goes the culture, so goes an organization, and so goes a nation. So we absolutely need a leader that understands that what you say matters, what you do matters, and people do follow what other people do. And we've seen people follow, unfortunately, this current president off a cliff. And the president's fallen and got himself in trouble. And so now I hope people can step back, breathe, and not let their emotions or not just be totally irrational, and see that science works, data works, and this is about protecting other people. Because had we done this earlier, we didn't have to have 207,000 people dead, and however many others are going to be affected in the future now. This could have came under control, and I think would have had Donald Trump done the same thing that Joe Biden is doing. It is not political to wear a mask. It is about being safe. Hard stop. And so I hope people get back to that, and we can actually get back to focusing on issues that matter. We can come together as a country and just really get off this stupidity, because this has really hurt us. Not only stupidity, but this dangerous attitude that science doesn't matter, facts don't matter. The only thing that matters is what makes me feel good.
Quentin, go ahead.
I mean, at the end of the day, if Donald Trump comes out and then he really just pushes the coronavirus issue, then I think we'll see a change. Other than that, I really don't think we will. In the end of the day, like you said, the leadership matters. And right now, he's the leader of the country. He sets the tone, right? So at this time, we have a leader that still says that it's not important. If he even him going to the hospital, I feel like...
And in fact, and hold tight 1 second. In fact, the White House has released this, Kayleigh McEnany has released this statement. President Trump remains in good spirits, has mild symptoms, and has been working throughout the day. I'm going to see if I can pull this up. Folks, this tells you that this is more serious, and they keep trying to let everybody believe. If y'all see it, this is the, let me know if y'all actually see it here. This is the statement. President Trump remains in good spirits, has mild symptoms, and has been working throughout the day out of an abundance of caution. And at the recommendation of his physician and medical experts, the president will be working from the presidential offices at Walter Reed for the next few days. President Trump appreciates the outpouring of support for both he and the First Lady. That's from Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany. Quentin, again, you don't work from the presidential office at Walter Reed for the next few days if you have mild symptoms.
Right. I mean, for sure, it's more serious than what they're putting off. But at the same time, it's the narrative that they're going to put out in the coming days, right? Because I don't think they can make a hard switch as far as they've been pushing. I mean, it's at the point that people are storming state houses and everything, just saying that it's a hoax. And even though he has it, unless something serious happens to this man, I just really don't see them changing their platform on it.
Well, they're going to have to change their platform. It's projected that another 150, 200,000 people will die before the end of the year. President and First Lady have it. I mean, so many people have had this virus. Many of them have survived. Some have not. I certainly don't expect him to reverse himself on mask wearing, but I do expect him to put one on. And I bet the doctors at Walter Reed will tell him the same thing. And now that we know how highly contagious he is, let me repeat that, how highly contagious he is, if he walks out of the White House without a mask on, somebody ought to arrest him. That's hyperbole. But I mean, it's really absurd.
Not that much.
Got it.
but you know.
I understand. No. Look, I understand your point. Bottom line is this here. Again, the games that they played, it should be no games. And this is where, if you were the chief of staff, Mark Meadows, you would have some guts and say, look, he's in the hospital, mandatory mask in the White House. You completely put in real rules. You listen to Dr. Anthony Fauci. That's what they should do. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks at Seek.com, of course, they black-owned company founded by Mary Spiel. They have a couple of great products that you can actually get. This is their VR headset. This headset, folks, allows for you to actually take your cell phone, pop it right into here, close it up, and then you can actually watch the VR content, the virtual reality content on Seek.com right there through your phone. Actually, it's pretty cool. You can also look at 360-degree video from other websites as well, and it puts you literally right there where the video was shot. And so they have this particular headset right here. They also have their 360-degree 4D headphones. And so these headphones right here, which are Bluetooth. Also, they have the headset, which you use for when you, if you're for all you gamers out there. And then, of course, it has this amazing sound, really, which actually covers around. Typically, you just have the headphones just right here, but this actually has a sound that goes all around your head. I love these headphones. Love listening to music with them and watching videos as well. And so, all you got to do, folks, is go to Seek.com, Seek.com. Use the promo code RMVIP2020. That's RMVIP2020 to actually try these out. And so that's what we want you to do. All right, folks. So again, go to Seek.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. A video showing a black male jogging in Boston being stopped by the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement has emerged and sparked outrage for the city's mayor and lawmakers. Y'all, watch this.
We're all set?
Yeah.
Are we all set?
Oh, we're all set.
We're all set?
Yeah, sure is. Yeah,
we're all set, sir? Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
Just want to make sure. Thank you.
Enjoy your run.
Free to go. Thank you.
Do you have any, real quick, do you have any tattoos on your left and right arm? Just so we can confirm, and we'll be out of here.
For me?
Yeah.
Am I free to go? Do I have to show you? If I'm free to go, then I'm not showing you anything. Thank you. Have a great day, guys. Man, you see the feds try to stop me? ICE tried to stop me in my own neighborhood, bro? Yo, what? This shit is crazy. Hey, record this just in case. Record this in case, bro, for real.
So the video is only a short clip of Bina Prella. The 29-year-old man was jogging in West Roxbury, Massachusetts, when he was stopped by ICE. Boston Mayor Marty Walsh, City Council member Matt O'Malley, and Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley expressed outrage at ICE racially profiling a member of the public. An immediate investigation has been called to look further into the incident. Why? I mean, first of all, what? So I guess ICE like, yo, Dr. Naomi, hey, we stopping any damn body. And show me your tattoos. Man, take your punk ass on.
But you know what this really highlights, I think, Roland, is how insecure we are in our own country. And most of the time, none of us have anything on our person that could actually prove our status. So if they were to take him and hold him, they could have done that day. And there would have been nothing that he had on his person in that moment to prove that he was not an undocumented person, or the person that they claimed they were looking for, which is some Haitian, right? And just because he's black and out running, because I'm sure that's what Haitian absconders from justice right now doing, is running around Boston. But, you know, this nonsense that happens all the time. And it was, I'm sure, you match the description. That's what every black person, every black man in particular hears on a regular basis. You meet the description. What's the description? Black and male. That's it. I am thankful that this man was able to go home to his family, that he was able to have a moment where he could walk away and not have to be detained and not have to potentially be shot in the back or any of these other things, because this is real and this is dangerous. And I tell people all the time, many of the times when we are walking around, moving about the world, we assume that we have things on our person that can prove we a citizen. Your license won't do it. Your social security card won't do it. Unless you have a passport or a birth certificate or something like that on you, there's nothing to prove that you aren't a citizen, and nothing to stop deputized police officers that in some places they've made quasi-immigration officials or ICE agents who are jumping out on people from detaining you. And that is the really scary fact.
Bottom line here, Michael, is these people have been emboldened by Donald Trump. Fired Donald Trump in November, ICE has to stand down. That's why he has unleashed ICE on America, and let them do whatever the hell they want to do.
Absolutely, Roland. And, you know, what I want to, well, first of all, the Congressional Black Caucus has been speaking out, and I saw a press conference a few months ago that a few members of the Congressional Black Caucus had. I think it was at the southern border, if I remember correctly. I know you covered it also. But when it comes to Black undocumented immigrants, or even Black immigrants, period, who are here legally, they are the first ones to be deported, even if they're here legally. Okay, they're the first ones to be deported, and very few people actually speak up for them. So, you know, this could have easily gone the wrong direction. This could have easily gone the wrong way, but I want to know what ICE is doing to crack down on white undocumented immigrants, because it's very easy for white undocumented immigrants to intermix with other white people, and there are a lot of white undocumented immigrants, but that's not talked about. So I want to see videos of ICE pursuing white undocumented immigrants to see how they handle that also.
That ain't gonna happen, Rob.
Nope, not gonna happen. And you will not find that tape. I will make 100%, 1,000% guarantee you won't. But you know, I remember when Trump first started early off in his administration. There were some Black people that were okay with this tough crackdown, and even some second generation Latino immigrants that were okay with this. They were like, well, we need to be legal and all this stuff. But listen, they're going to come after you. It doesn't stop with immigrant. It's going to keep going. It's going to keep going to Black. So when you see injustice against a group, you know it's going to come against you, particularly if you're a person of color. So we have to make sure that anywhere we see injustice, as Dr. Martin Luther King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. That's what he means. It metastasizes. It will always grow, and it's always going to come to Black people. So we should never be for it, whether it's going after Muslims, whether it's going after women. It will always come back to us anyway. Period.
And also, let's be clear, undocumented Black immigrants live in Black communities with native-born Black people. And the reason they're picked up more often is because our community are hyper-policed. So this is also a Black American native-born problem, right? These kinds of things happening. It's not just about undocumented Black citizens, because they didn't stop that man because they thought he was undocumented. They stopped him because he was Black.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, the folks at Seek.com, Black-owned company founded by Mary Spio. They, of course, a virtual reality company. You can check out their content at Seek.com, CEEK.com. You can do so, of course, with these VR headsets. You can look at it, of course, on your regular device or your pad or your computer. But if you want to experience being in the room, you can use this headset right here. All you simply do is just pop in your cell phone in here, pop it on, and then put this headset on, and you can literally experience their content in virtual reality. And so allows for you to do a 360-degree view of the room. But also, folks, they have the 360-degree 4D headphones right here. These are Bluetooth headphones. They have complete surround sound in terms of as you hear the particular music. Gamers love them as well when they're playing their games. And so it's just phenomenal bass in these headphones as well. You can get one or both devices at Seek.com using this promo code RMVIP. VIP 2020 RMVIP 2020. So we certainly thank the folks at Seek.com for being a partner with us here at Roland Martin Unfiltered. All right. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Folks, Donald Trump is leaving the hospital today after being diagnosed with COVID-19 and spending just 3 days there. Of course, interrupted by a spin around the block yesterday to greet his fans, which is pretty stupid. As of today, there are 7.45 million confirmed cases of coronavirus and 210,000 Americans have died. His treatment and quick release is raising lots of questions. Of course, he took to Twitter. You want to talk about just crazy, folks. Let me pull up this tweet to show you literally the level of ignorance of Donald Trump. He sent a tweet out today saying that he was going to be leaving the White House. But listen to literally what he said in this idiotic tweet, which looks, what, has he taken it down? Because I was going to pull it up here, where he actually announced before the doctors did that he was going to be leaving at 6:30 and talked about how, basically how he's beaten coronavirus and he hasn't felt this good in 20 years. Yo, I don't even understand the logic behind that. But some folks did have something to say about it. Of course, when he went, the Rep. Replies had this to say, and Alex, he was really on point.
This message for the president. You finna quarantine. Quarantine? So you're trying to listen? Listen? You don't listen? No. Don't come talking about this some CDC guidelines. You don't listen to CDC. Remember? CDC don't know what they talking about. I dare you disrespect Megaland like that and start listening to directions. Y'all don't listen to no directions. Y'all is the directions, remember? You finna quarantine. You scared. You scared. Get out of here. Back in these streets. These people want to rally tonight, man. And you in the bunker. Get out the bunker and get back out here in these streets. There ain't no corona. You finna quarantine. We in this together. No, we ain't. Y'all in this. We ain't in nothing. Sleepy Joe. He's weak, Sleepy Joe. But now you want to quarantine. Get out here now. In these streets. Throw some more Get back on Air Force One. And I better not see no masks on you. You don't wear masks. Y'all don't wear masks. You want to quarantine. Oh, you tested positive for COVID. Ain't no COVID, bitch.
Joining me now, Dr. Christy McDowell, a microbiologist and CEO and founder of Baby Scientists, Inc. Dr. McDowell, glad to have you on Roland Martin Unfiltered. We've had all these news conferences with his doctors not wanting to release some information. There's no way in the world this man gets coronavirus last week, all of a sudden taking these experimental drugs and should be leaving the hospital, potentially infecting others. We already know 19 people who have been at the White House have tested positive. Today, Kayleigh McEnany, the press secretary, who yesterday addressed reporters without a mask on, and she kept saying how she tested negative. Well, guess what? Today, she tested positive. This is an example of you can come into contact with somebody and test negative for 3 or 4 days and then test positive.
That's exactly right, Marlon. Thanks for having me today. The president leaving the hospital is completely and totally reckless and is totally dangerous because he is still highly contagious. He has active virus in his body right now. And he also has a very high viral load, meaning he is very contagious. And so going to the White House, he can spread it so easily. And I saw in a van photo when he went to go greet his people outside of Walter Reed, he had on just a simple little face mask. He needed an N95 mask on, for someone who has active coronavirus in their body, who is totally infectious. And walking around the White House, the staffers, he's putting them at risk. And one thing that people forget is, yes, those staffers may be wearing masks, but another portal of entry is through the eyes. And so just because he may have a mask will not protect them from getting coronavirus if he is in the White House. Another thing that's important to remember is that the White House doesn't have the level of filtration that a hospital does. The hospital has the high-end HEPA filters that can filter out viral particles. The White House does not have that. And the CDC put back on their website today that to confirm that the virus is airborne, something that he and his administration and his followers want to deny. This virus, once it is in the air, can stay in the air for a matter of time, which is significant, before it will fall to the ground or disappear. So it's very reckless and dangerous for him to be going back to the White House because everyone is going to be at risk.
This is, and the thing about it is, when you look at staff, I mean, these folks are going back home. Kellyanne Conway, she tested positive. Now her daughter is freaking out on TikTok saying, hell, she may have infected me.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, before Kellyanne mentioned it, her daughter put on TikTok and was like, Mama's around here coughing her butt off, around the house, which was a major sign because, you saw at the Rose Garden conference when Kellyanne was talking to Barr up close. She's at home with her family. And that's what will happen with the other staffers in the White House who do not have the medical capabilities, access to the drugs, and access to the level of care that the president does. These people who have regular health care will not have that type of care if they get sick. And they won't have the ability to get steroids and, investigational drugs and antibodies to fight off the disease and feel like they're 20 years younger. So that's the danger in it all, is that these staffers could contract that virus and take it home to their children, families, and many people live with their elderly parents, and that will be dangerous as well.
The thing that, again, this is still, all of a sudden he's trying to act like, hey, I beat this thing. You got Republicans running around saying, Trump, he beat back coronavirus. 210,000 people are dead. There are a number of people having the after effects. And also, let's be clear, 99.9999% of Americans don't have free health care, don't have access to the experimental drugs. The drugs that he's getting, only 300 people have been able to use these experimental drugs so far.
That's right, Marlon, because the drug that he's being administered is remdesivir. It is an investigational drug that is still in clinical trials. It's still in the clinical trials. I believe it's in clinical phase 3. He also was able to get a antibody concoction, and antibodies are the proteins that our body makes. And these antibodies were isolated from people who previously had coronavirus. So they are able to attack the virus directly. And so these are drugs that no one in the world has access to right now but him. And so people who on regular health care, who have no health care at all, will not have access to these drugs. And that's what makes his transfer back to the White House so dangerous because his staff, drivers, the butlers, the cooks, they don't have access to this type of healthcare that can provide those level of drugs that he is getting. And so for him to say, oh, don't worry about coronavirus. Yes, people still need to worry about coronavirus. It's out here. It's alive. It's infectious. People need to wear their masks. They need to continue to wash their hands, and they can need to continue to social distance, because those are the things that will keep us safe, us regular people out here in these streets.
One of the things that again jumps out when you talked about that N95 mask, first of all, which is very hard to actually get for those of the rest of us, is it a cloth mask with a filter? So exactly what should the rest of us be wearing as well? So, yes, like you said, the N95 masks, they are the type of, they are medical grade masks. Those are masks that the hospital staff will wear, the doctors, the nurses. It's also masks that scientists will wear when we work with infectious diseases such as Ebola, coronavirus, SARS. Those masks have a filter that is small enough to filter out a particle that is small like a virus. A virus is so small that it's you cannot see it with the human eye, and you have to have a high-powered microscope in order to see it. And so that the filter in those N95s is very important. And so for him, that is something that he should have been wearing so that he could block the passage of that virus. Now, for everyday people, yes, a regular mask will do, because there has been many scientific studies out that shows that the regular cloth mask that everyday people wear is just fine. Right? It will block, at least 75-80% of your spit that comes out when you talk, when you cough, when you sneeze. So those masks are totally fine, and I encourage everyone to continue to wear them. Now, for someone who is highly contagious as the president and who has access to everything, he should have been wearing an N95 mask to protect the people around him, especially being in a closed vehicle with his Secret Service detail. All right, then. Doc, we certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Martin. I appreciate it.
All right, folks. Our panel, Dr. Avis Jones-Dweaver, political analyst, Eugene Craig, CEO, Eugene Craig Organization, Teresa Lundy, principal founder, TML Communications. Folks, today on the campaign trail, this was Jill Biden being very cognizant of the need for social distancing. Joe Biden was standing way too close to reporters. She took it upon herself to move Biden back. Watch this. So again, you see right there where she's like, yeah, you need to pull you back. Right. That's what should be happening. We also, of course, are seeing right now this back and forth, how the Trump people are basically making light of Senator Kamala Harris. You have folks who, first of all, they've agreed to move apparently the podiums 13 feet apart. The Biden people, the Harris people are talking about potentially erecting a plexiglass barrier. This was the barrier that was in place on Saturday night. Jamie Harrison brought his own plexiglass barrier in his debate with Lindsey Graham. And then you have Katie Miller, who is a spokeswoman for the Trump campaign, basically making light of that. This is the same Katie Miller who's married to Stephen Miller, who actually got coronavirus earlier. And Teresa, the CDC recommends that if you're in the workplace, if you can, to erect such barriers.
I agree. This is the time where we cannot take our lives lightly. Millions have died globally, and thousands have died nationally. And I think, for when the president gets coronavirus and his team is getting coronavirus, essentially it looks like the only people that are safe are the vice president's team. So it looks like they'll be moving in the White House pretty soon. But I think we're all over. We're seeing a national attempt to, okay, you know what? Maybe we will start looking at CDC guidelines. Maybe we will start taking precautionary methods. But again, if your life matters to you, then you need to be taking the proper protocols, hand washing, temperature checks, PPE, if you have it. If you don't, go get it, and make sure you share it with a friend. But, I know right here locally, we just got finished opening up at 50% capacity for restaurants indoor. That's a huge risk. Like, I am still opposed to doing that. I'm also just still doing takeout at this time and cooking more at home. But I think it's to each his own. People want to feel comfortable, but at the end of the day, you have to be safe.
Absolutely. Bottom line here, Eugene, this is an idiot we're dealing with, an idiot who is all about attention seeking. He is so desperate for attention. That little drive-by yesterday was abysmal, putting those Secret Service agents at risk. He doesn't care. And so there's this whole deal now, the 6:30 deal. He's doing that to time it with the national broadcast outlets. He wants everybody covering him, getting out of the hospital. That's all this is.
Yeah, look, that's all it is. It's a big show for him, right? At this point, all they're concerned about is the next 30 days of his election. His health be damned. The thing is this. Friday, when they
his health be damned, and his staff and White House personnel's health be damned.
Yeah, well, look, it comes down to power, right? It's hey, we can't have this guy laid up in Walter Reed and the world, watching and his poll numbers steadily dropping. To the point where, Biden may rack up 400 electoral college votes because, now, Trump did his best to chase Corona. He finally caught Corona. As I posted over the weekend, I said my only regret is that the 210,000 people that have died from Corona of no fault of their own, I wish they had the same level of access to health care that this guy had, that spent, part of his time spreading misinformation about Corona, part of his time using his actual power to help the spread, and then part of his time doing his best to chase it to finally catch it.
Avis, what we're dealing with here is a psychopath. That's what his sister Mary Trump calls him. I trust nothing that his doctors say. They are not being honest and truthful to the American people. And frankly, when their lips are moving, they're lying.
Absolutely. And I completely agree. He is a psychopath because only a psychopath would have been as irresponsible as he was today with that particular tweet. But it's in line with how he acts anyway. I mean, just really think about this. He literally received hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of medical care. When you're thinking about everything that happened from his flight over there to all of the time that he spent there to his flight back and everything, I am sure he had at least, over $100,000 worth of medical care. Yet we know he just paid $750 in taxes. And we know that this sort of stunt, because something isn't adding up here. Something isn't adding up here. The timeline of when he got it or something's not adding up here is just not right. But he has been doing publicity stunts the entire time. All of those staged photos, now the staged exit, now to be as irresponsible as to, instead of talking about the importance of people being able to follow the guidelines and wear masks, he is in fact encouraging people not to. Put this in line with what he has done most recently. He's sidelined Fauci. He's even sidelined Bricks. And he's brought in someone as his main advisor who's not even an epidemiologist, but someone who is in fact in favor of herd immunity. What he is trying to do is he's trying to kill you. Basically, they have told you what they're doing. They have given up on coronavirus. They've just forget it. Every man, woman, and child for himself. And even though I'm going to have my privileged access to things that you will never get, including pretty much a smaller hospital-like status within the White House, you go ahead out there and do whatever you have to do, just as long as we can, quote unquote, get this economy back. I don't care. He doesn't care how many bodies he has to step over to do it. But I just hope that the American people can see through this so that they can make sure that he is the one that's going to be seeing the exit come November 3rd.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks at Seek.com, of course, they black-owned company founded by Mary Spiel. They have a couple of great products that you can actually get. This is their VR headset. This headset, folks, allows for you to actually take your cell phone, pop it right into here, close it up, and then you can actually watch the VR content, the virtual reality content on Seek.com right there through your phone. Actually, it's pretty cool. You can also look at 360-degree video from other websites as well, and it puts you literally right there where the video was shot. And so they have this particular headset right here. They also have their 360-degree 4D headphones. And so these headphones right here, which are Bluetooth. Also, they have the headset, which you use for when you, if you're for all you gamers out there. And then, of course, it has this amazing sound, really, which actually covers around. Typically, you just have the headphones just right here, but this actually has a sound that goes all around your head. I love these headphones. Love listening to music with them and watching videos as well. And so, all you got to do, folks, is go to Seek.com, Seek.com. Use the promo code RMVIP2020. That's RMVIP2020 to actually try these out. And so that's what we want you to do. All right, folks. So again, go to Seek.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. All right, folks, we've been talking the election. 27 days left before Election Day, but we're already in Election Day with early voting starting all across the country, with people dropping mail-in balloting all across the country. And folks, there's a new poll from the political advocacy group Black Futures Lab, which shows that black folks say they're not deterred from showing up to the polls in spite of all the efforts by Republicans to turn them away. 81% of respondents say they plan on voting in the general election. We're joined by with the details with Alicia Garza, principal with the Black Futures Lab, and Terrence Woodbury, an analyst for. First of all, we had you used to be with Brilliant Corners, but you're now with Terrence, name of the group?
Yeah, Hitch, CEO at Hitch Strategies, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. So they had the old title there in the script there. Let me first start with you, Terrence. You conducted this poll. Give people just the basic overview of what it says.
So this is, fascinating research, and what I appreciate, I want to thank Alicia Garza and Black Future Labs, because far too often in polling, black folks get reduced down to a single crosstab, or even less than that. We even get reduced down to people of color in a crosstab. And so this robust research allowed us to really open up the black community and to look at some key audiences and demographics, and to identify some potential problems going into this election cycle. And the truth is, we got some problems going into the final stretch here. Joe Biden is significantly underperforming Hillary Clinton's losing margins amongst black voters. And we do see that concentrated amongst black men, and particularly young black men under the age of 49, where Donald Trump is receiving 18% of the vote. We also identified some other problems here with that seem to indicate that black voters are being bombarded with misinformation and disinformation, and it's beginning to impact not only how they feel about Joe Biden, but how they feel about Kamala Harris. And so, I'm looking forward to unpacking this some more, and finally breaking out some crosstabs of black folks that realize that we are not a monolith.
Alicia, that particular point, disinformation, we've had Shireen Mitchell on this show talking about that. People are getting stuff they're getting it from Facebook. And the thing is, I've said to the Biden people, the Harris people, look, you got to counter disinformation. You can't just let it sit out there and where there's no response to it whatsoever. We got some audio issues with you. Make sure your microphone is up. Guys, can we pull up her audio, please?
Can you hear me okay?
Now we got you. Go ahead.
All right, cool. Well, I was just saying, Roland, you and I have been talking about this for at least a year. And we came on to the show a year ago and talked about our Black Census Project. And we've been hearing for a long time that not only are Black men being left out and left behind, especially when it comes to political campaigns. But we've also been talking for a ton of time now about the ways in which Black communities are being targeted with disinformation and misinformation. And frankly, as somebody who's a co-founder of the Black Lives Matter Global Network, nobody knows more about misinformation or disinformation than I do. I mean, in this moment, Roland, Black voters are being assaulted by the kind of misinformation and disinformation that is trying to keep people away from the polls. And in this particular political moment, Roland, what we're finding is that lies are spreading much faster than the truth. But here's the other thing that I know, and we're so proud to partner with HIT Strategies on this groundbreaking poll, because 30 days out from the election, it's time for us to stop saying Black voters are not a monolith. We've been saying this for a long time now. It's actually time for these campaigns to be taking action. And so what this poll has done is really laid out in very clear terms what it means to target Black voters in such a way that is addressing the concerns that we have. And it's also being very, very clear that if these two candidates, Vice President Joe Biden and Senator Kamala Harris, if their campaign is not taking this seriously, it's sure to have an impact at the polls, and it's sure to make sure that the impact of this election season is not what most of us would want it to be.
Terrence, when you talked about going inside of those numbers, even though we have less than a month, 27 days to Election Day, what should candidates be looking at doing with these numbers? Is it too late to appeal to these voters? Or what should they be doing? What kind of messaging? Where should they be trying to reach them?
It's not too late, and a lot of Black voters are still undecided. I've been saying since January that Black men are the real swing voters in this election, and can frankly determine the outcome in a lot of the battlegrounds that we've all been paying close attention to. But when you look at this data, it is quite clear that for Black voters across demographics, for younger Black voters and under Black voters, for Black men and for Black women, rural and urban, the issues are clear. The top issues for Black voters are COVID-19, racism, and the economy. The order of those three issues may alternate depending on what group of Black voters you look at, but those three issues are consistent. And until we lean into racism, I mean, we cannot, and this goes for the entire Democratic Party. This is not just a Joe Biden problem. This is a Democratic problem that we all have to confront. And I want to acknowledge what Joe Biden said in his Gettysburg speech today, where he really leaned into the moral imperative of the nation solving the original sin of racism. But Democrats have to realize that we cannot respond to racism with economic policies and more affordable health care. There is an anxiety amongst Black voters, specifically amongst younger Black voters, younger Black men who are closest to this pain, who are the reason many of us have gone out into the streets and protests. That anxiety we have to lean into. We have to present an alternative view of a view of America that leans into racism. But also, Roland, we really do have to do a better job of defining Senator Kamala Harris here. She has been taking the brunt of this misinformation and disinformation. And frankly, she's being used to discredit him. And we asked the question, does Joe Biden picking Kamala Harris as his VP make you more or less likely to support him? And overwhelmingly amongst Black voters, 70 to 80% of Black voters are more likely to support Joe Biden because he chose Kamala Harris. But 14% of younger Black voters are less likely to support Joe Biden because he chose Kamala Harris. And had you told me that 3 months ago, that there would be Black voters that wouldn't support him if he chose her, I would thought it was unbelievable. But when I asked in focus groups recently in Florida, a young Black man, 25-year-old Black man in Florida said to me, I know what Joe Biden's priorities are as president because he chose a top cop as his vice president. He just wants to lock up more Black people. I don't know about you, Roland, but I've never heard a young Black man use the word top cop. That is, he is repeating verbatim what he is hearing in misinformation and disinformation, and we have got to combat that, and we have to do a better job of raising her profile, of telling her story, and using her to anchor this candidacy.
But Alicia, I'll be perfectly honest. That was a fault of Senator Kamala Harris. Her campaign did not realize what her greatest Achilles heel was, and then they started emphasizing the top cop language as well in this whole idea of appealing, let's just be clear, to white voters who are all about law and order. And so there's a difference between saying I'm the top cop when you're not a cop. You're not. They should have been framing themselves in the same vein as the Marilyn Mosbys, the Stephanie Moraleses, the Aramis Ayalas before Marilyn Mosby, Stephanie Morales, and Aramis Ayala even came on board. And so that's also on them.
You know, I couldn't agree with you more, Roland. And honestly, this election cycle has aged me about 15 years because we actually did. We begged so many of these campaigns to stop using this kind of language, but also not to let other people shape your story for you. As somebody who's born and raised here in California, somebody who was of age when Kamala Harris was district attorney here in San Francisco, I can tell you her record is actually much more complicated than the misinformation campaigns would have you think. But at the end of the day, it was not a great decision from her earlier presidential run to not tell her story on her own terms. And at the end of the day, Roland, I have to just say, this is a function of who's running these campaigns in the first place. Yep. And the facts of the matter is, it's not folks who are deeply connected to our communities. They are using formulas that weaponize race, that triangulate around race in order to appeal to white suburban voters, particularly white women. We have found time and time again that when campaigns don't pay particular attention and do deep investment in Black communities, that we have the kind of scenario that we're seeing now and that Terrence is describing. It's not too late, though. We have 29 days to set the record straight and to make sure that we're getting our stories out on our own terms. The question is, are we going to be able to sidestep some of the white men who are running these campaigns and let them know that we actually know what's going on in our communities much more than they do? And what's at stake, frankly, is whether or not our communities turn out to vote. We're not unclear about who to vote for. It's about being unclear as to whether or not our vote will even matter. And that's the challenge we have to address.
I'm going to bring my panel here with questions. Joseph, your question first for Alicia and Terrence.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, thank you guys so much for joining us. And I think obviously this election cycle is giving us all gray hairs. But looking a little bit further into the future, I'll start with you, Terrence. You know, maybe what are the things that you think we can be doing as a people when you start talking about a movement of Black voters to demand that we have both parties being accountable to the promises they make and responsive to the needs of our community? I think obviously right now we would agree we have a Democratic Party that is responsive to the needs of Black people, but not necessarily accountable for the promises they make. And the Republican Party that in many ways is kind of content to be neither responsive or accountable simply for the fact that in many ways they've been able to win elections by being neither. So what are the things that you think, and digging through the data that you've been compiling, not just here, but also in the past, about as we move towards a new American majority, what are the things that we can do to start accelerating progress so that both parties are actually actively contesting for our votes on equal footing?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. You know, I want to give you a quote from a Black man in Pennsylvania. Just last Thursday, I hosted these focus groups. Actually, these are actually previous focus groups. But a Black man said to me that my hood did not get better under Obama, and it didn't get worse under Trump. So tell me what these presidents got to do with me. And that's the real challenge that we have. This is not just a Democratic problem. There's a systemic problem here where Black men, to Alicia's point, Black men are deciding whether or not they continue to engage politically, whether or not they actually benefit. I asked, when is the last time voting made your life better? And the silence was deafening. It was deafening. It has never made their lives better. And so this is a moral imperative, I believe, for us to really empower communities. We have to stop this transactional approach to politics. That is, if you vote, then all of your problems are solved, and really engage Black voters and young voters in civic responsibility and what we must do to bring about the change that we want and to demand from politics, from politicians, and from the political system the changes that we would like to see. And frankly, I mean, there's a justifiable cynicism, a justifiable lack of trust. And so we can't continue to lead with, policy promises and policy prescriptions. And if you vote for me, then I will give you all of these things. They don't believe us anymore. We have to start engaging with answering the question, what have you done for me lately? And this is what I advise all of my candidates. You have to lead with your record. Lead with what you've been doing, and that way that there's a proof of concept here. You begin to show that people are actually working and fighting on your behalf to improve the issues that you say are important, and then we can begin to lean into policy prescriptions. But we really do have to show the efficacy of politics. Does it actually have an impact on their lives? We know the answer to this, but how well are we communicating that answer?
Lauren, next question.
How you doing, Alicia and Terrence? I wanted to get your comments on the part of politics that involves the money. I think so often what happens in this game is that the Democratic Party specifically only pays attention to who gives them money. One of the reasons why we see certain demographics in charge of these campaigns are those are demographics that give them money. Particularly, I was thinking, and I'm not making a commentary on the work of these groups, but I do think about what you were saying about white women, and I think about NARAL and Planned Parenthood and Emily's List, and I think Planned Parenthood's work is great, but I think the reason they get attention that Black voters don't get is because they have the money piece. We have the voting piece, but we have a voting piece that they don't have, but they have the money piece, and I wanted to just hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I can jump in here. I mean, I think that that's a fair assumption. I mean, we know actually now that Planned Parenthood is being led by our sister, Alexis McGill Johnson, who's only the second Black woman ever to head that organization. But bigger than this, I think you're absolutely right that money inside of politics is really what helps to lead towards these skewed and faulty types of strategies that don't actually deliver the votes. So while they may be following these Democratic donors, those donors aren't actually delivering the kinds of votes that they need for Democrats to win. What we know about demographics in this country is that communities of color, particularly Latinx communities, are becoming the demographic majority in this nation. And demographics is not destiny, but what is destiny is that our communities, if organized, right, and if invested in, could turn out to be the largest voting blocks in these election cycles. But it's a lack of vision, frankly, that allows for these kind of top donors to be leading the strategies rather than people rooted in communities that have everything to gain from turning out and everything to lose from democracy withering away. And so we have seen this happen on their watch. And frankly, if this election season isn't enough to do an about face, I'm not really sure what else can be enough.
Terrence, real quick, you got an answer?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, frankly, Democrats are going to have to become more loyal and responsive to their most loyal voters. Black women are not only the most likely voters in America, they're the most loyal voters in the Democratic Party. And I want to push back on the money idea as well. I mean, I spoke to the Boulay archons last week and gave them a political briefing on what the state of the election was. And when they asked me what they can do to improve these numbers, I told them directly, hold your money, earmark it. When you give money to the Democratic Party, you tell them, I want this to go towards raising the profile of Kamala Harris. I want this to go towards empowering and mobilizing Black men. There's plenty of Black money in this party. We have to start weaponizing our money until our agenda and our communities are being advanced.
Mustafa, final question.
Yeah, this is either for Terrence or Alicia. You know, we got 27 days left. We're honoring Fannie Lou Hamer when she once said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I just had conversations with Black folks in Appalachia. And yes, there are some Black folks there. What do we do in the next 27 days to reach those folks who have been unseen and unheard?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll start off by saying what we do in the next 27 days to make sure that our folks who have been left out and left behind are at the center of this election season is we've got to turn them out. We've got to make sure that folks like LaTosha Brown from Black Voters Matter, that the folks from the Movement for Black Lives, the folks from the Black to the Future Action Fund, and all of these other entities that are going into our communities and motivating and mobilizing voters and have been for the last year, have the resources that they need so that we can close the gap between the outreach and the investment that the party's been doing and the outreach and investment that's needed to get everybody involved. The second thing I think we need to make sure we're doing is really making sure that these campaigns understand what's at stake. 27 days is not a long time, but it's also not no time. And so there is an opportunity to change course. And actually, this week is a wonderful opportunity to speak to not only the strongest base of the Democratic Party, but also speak to the issues that most Americans care about. And frankly, we missed a huge opportunity last week in the debates to really get into a discussion about race and how it impacts every single system and structure in our society. And this isn't a new opportunity to push back against this BS law and order agenda for some, right, but not for the president and his cronies, but also to offer a pathway forward. And frankly, we shouldn't be telling any lies on that stage. We should be telling people things are hard, but without your participation, things will never get better. Everything you leave on the table, somebody else will eat. That's how we got Donald Trump in the first place.
Folks, where can people actually see more of these survey results, polling results?
Well, you can check out our website at blackfutureslab.org. You can hit Strategies to get some more information about this polling data. We'll also be doing more events, so follow us to figure out where we'll be. I know Terrence and the crew at Hit Strategies has also been working directly in states with some of our partners like New Florida Majority to really look at, how does this data apply to messaging? And so we want to keep you all in the loop. So if you want to follow us, check us out at blackfutureslab.org.
Alicia Garza, Terrence Wilberry, I certainly appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Roll.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, we support Black-owned businesses here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. The folks at Seek.com, they, of course, have a couple of things. Their virtual reality headset right here, folks. You just drop your cell phone right in. You can look at their content on Seek.com or look at 360-degree video right here through this headset. It's it's pretty fabulous to actually be in the room, in the place with that virtual reality video. They also have these great 360-degree 4D headphones. Gamers love them. You can listen to music, watch videos, great surround sound. All of that's great. These two devices here you can get from Seek.com, CEEK.com. Use the promo code RMVIP2020. RMVIP2020. And we certainly thank Mary Spiel, the founder of the company, and folks at Seek.com for being supporters of Roland Martin Unfiltered. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible and understand what is going on. It's a perfect example of what Donald Trump has unleashed today in Michigan. 13 men, including members of the anti-government militia Wolverine Watchmen, are facing charges for allegedly conspiring to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer and possibly killed her. They were going to kidnap her from her summer vacation home and storm the state capitol building with 200 men. Now, folks, the plot was revealed in an FBI criminal complaint which names 6 people as federal defendants from Michigan, Delaware, and Ohio. These white domestic terrorists, Adam Fox, Barry Croft, Caleb Garwin, Daniel Franks, Harris and Brandon Caserta. Again, Adam Fox, Barry Croft, Garvin, Caleb Franks, Daniel Harris, Brandon Caserta. Now, Attorney General Dana Nessel of Michigan announced state terrorism charges against an additional 7 individuals, all tied to Wolverine Watchmen. The complaint reads, in early 2020, the The FBI became aware through social media that a group of individuals were discussing the violent overthrow of certain government and law enforcement components. Among those individuals identified were Croft and Fax. Through electronic communications, Croft and Fox agreed to unite others in their cause and take violent action against multiple state governments that they believe are violating the U.S. Constitution. The complaint goes on to detail where they met, what they discussed, and how they communicated. Governor Whitmer said this today after the charges were announced.
Good afternoon. Earlier today, Attorney General Dana Nessel was joined by officials from the Department of Justice and the FBI to announce state and federal charges against 13 members of 2 militia groups who were preparing to kidnap and possibly kill me. When I put my hand on the Bible and took the oath of office 22 months ago, I knew this job would be hard. But I'll be honest, I never could have imagined anything like this. I want to start by saying thank you to our law enforcement. Thank you to the fearless FBI agents. And thank you to the brave Michigan State Police troopers who participated in this operation, acting under the leadership of Colonel Joe Gasper. I also want to thank Attorney General Nessel and the U.S. Attorneys Burge and Schneider and their teams for pursuing criminal charges that hopefully will lead to convictions, bringing these sick and depraved men to justice. As a mom with 2 teenage daughters and 3 stepsons, my husband and I are eternally grateful to everyone who put themselves in harm's way to keep our family safe. This should be a moment for national unity, where we all pull together as Americans to meet this challenge head on with the same might and muscle that put a man on the moon. Seeing the humanity in one another and doing our part to help our country get through this. Instead, our head of state has spent the past 7 months denying science, ignoring his own health experts, stoking distrust, fomenting anger, and giving comfort to those who spread fear and hatred and division. Just last week, the President of the United States stood before the American people and refused to condemn white supremacists and hate groups like these 2 Michigan militia groups. Stand back and stand by, he told them. Stand back and stand by. Hate groups heard the President's words not as a rebuke, but as a rallying cry, as a call to action. When our leaders speak, their words matter. They carry weight. When our leaders meet with, encourage, or fraternize with domestic terrorists, they legitimize their actions, and they are complicit. When they stoke and contribute to hate speech, they are complicit.
These domestic terrorists have been emboldened by the White House, folks, since Donald Trump was in there. Joining me now is Malcolm Nance, the author of a number of books, including The Plot to Betray America, How Team Trump Embraced Our Enemies. Guys, show the book, please. How Team Trump Embraced Our Enemies, Compromised Our Security, and How We Can Fix It. That's his book right there. Malcolm, look, the FBI director, Christopher Wray, has said before Congress numerous times the biggest threat of white domestic terrorists. Joe Biden emphasized that at last week's debate. Donald Trump was spewing nonsense, talking about Antifa, blasting him, and all these Republicans, let's just be honest, they are in bed with these white militias.
Well, if we're specifically talking about white militias, yes, they are the hardcore base of Donald Trump's support. This is why he will not disassociate himself from the Proud Boys or the Ku Klux Klan or anybody else who is Caucasian and supports Donald Trump and flies a Trump flag, whether, there's all sorts of violent groups there and people who are semi-violent. We had a massacre at a Jewish synagogue in Pittsburgh, Trump supporter. We had a man who mailed bombs in an attempt, a crude attempt to decapitate the entire Democratic Party, Trump supporter. We had armed gunmen that went to a synagogue in San Diego, right-wing extremists, white supremacists, Trump support. I mean, these people are his base, and he thoroughly understands it. He cannot lose white men, so he doesn't care who supports him or what they do.
And the thing here is that I was driving in and I said this here. Anybody that votes for Donald Trump should pay the heaviest political price for what they're doing to this country, because here's the reality, Malcolm. Trump is going to lose. He's going to get beat badly. And these people, at least 25 or 30% of this country, they will never accept the results. They have emboldened them. This is not the Tea Party. This is even going crazier. And these folks are going to continue to threaten, storming capitals. These are the anti-mask people. Trust me, when there's a vaccine, they're going to be anti-vaccine people. They're going to be pushing their conspiracy theories. And you're going to have idiots like Jim Jordan and Louis Gohmert and others, the crazy woman out of Georgia who's guaranteed to win, Marjorie Greene. They are going to be their flag bearers in the Congress.
Right. And, we really have to have some preparation for what could possibly happen. Look, I know that we are trying to maintain the norms that we have, and that's great. But this plot against Governor Whitmer is serious. It is very, very serious. If I were to take the name Wolverine's militia off of this story and slap ISIS or Al Qaeda in it, it would be 24/7 coverage. I would never leave the studio, much less be in my man cave in my home.
Be real clear. If this was 20 Black Lives Matter activists, my Lord.
There'd be a national push to arrest everyone in every major city in America who had anything to do with the leadership of Black Lives Matter. This is where we have this double standard. Long ago, when I first started, I wrote a book that's used by almost all federal law enforcement officers called the Terrorist Recognition Handbook. And we have sections in there about white nationalist extremists. This isn't new. Timothy McVeigh, when he blew up the Murrah building in Oklahoma City, thought he was launching a race war in which every cop and soldier in America was supposed to recognize the attack as the moment they take their guns and kill every black in government. That's what he thought would happen. These people really believed, according to the indictment, that there were law enforcement members associated with the militia. And like McVeigh, I met the cop that pulled Timothy McVeigh over and arrested him because the cop knew instantly that he had the right guy. But he said McVeigh thought he was his ally in blowing up that building, and he was proud to show him his gun. This is the mindset these militias have. They think the government, the military, state troopers, and law enforcement are on their side. And the only reason the FBI got an informant out of the box was because they intended to kidnap and kill not only the governor, they intended to kill her 6-man state trooper security detail. They were going to blow up the bridge where there would be 2 or 4 more policemen there. And then they were planning on running and gunning and taking the governor up to Wisconsin, of all places, in order to put her on trial as a tyrant and execute her. And why? Because she insisted they wear face masks in Michigan. This is insane. But the insanity has weapons. And the insanity believes they have the open endorsement of the President of the United States.
But it's not just they have weapons. They also, in ProPublica, and I'm trying to find the story right now, ProPublica did a particular story laying out how these militias, it turns out they're targeting cops. Not only that, we know the FBI dropped their own report that showed how police officers and white supremacists, first of all, how militia members and white supremacists are infiltrating police departments. That's why Timothy McVeigh was thinking that way. And that's why when black folks are talking about racist cops, we know what the hell we're talking about.
Well, you're right. They do recruit from those areas. And, I wouldn't call it infiltration. I've trained a lot of law enforcement in New York, Georgia, all over the country, all of these SWAT teams and organizations that carry out counterterrorism. One of the interesting things I learned is that 80% of them do not go in the military. They all go to cop school after high school, right? They go to these police academies, and they have no fundamental training in the discipline of the armed force. So many of them get these exact same ideas, particularly sheriffs, because the posse comitatus movement in the United States and the sovereign citizen movement have created this myth that the sheriff is the only authorized law enforcement that they answer to. That permeates into the mindset of these anti-government extremists, and anyone who's a deputy sheriff or a cop or retired soldier that comes into these ridiculous little, I don't call them militias, I call them covert terrorist cells, right? They're domestic terrorist cells who are in insurgency training inside the United States. The only difference is I use the word American versus Iraqi or Syrian, right? So these domestic terrorist cells, when they get a single guy who comes in there who's been in the army or a guy that comes in from law enforcement, they co-opt that belief that these people are all on their side. One thing I can tell you, having trained as a SWAT officer at one point with Capitol Hill Police and Los Angeles Police SWAT, cops are a very jealous organization. They love the concept that they are the arbiters of law and order. So if these groups think that they're going to go to guns and step up the cop, this is the one time you will see police defend the system, because they do not like anything other than the fact that they are the system. They don't like people with guns going on shooting sprees wherever they are. So they'll defend the governor. They'll defend the people of Michigan, for all the faults that we see inside the system. And this is a mistake these crazy terrorist cells are making, because we are not designed to collapse in a world like, The Walking Dead, where you think you can just get away with everything because you have guns.
Well, look, this is something that is going to have major implications moving forward. I have been saying since 2009, folks, get prepared for white fear, white minority resistance. These people are going to be very much involved in that. Malcolm Nance, author of the book, The Plot to Destroy Democracy. We certainly appreciate you joining us at Roland Martin Unfiltered. Thanks a lot.
My pleasure.
Let's go back to our panel. Erica, again, this is something that this is not an anomaly. This is going to happen a lot more.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reporting bears it out. We just seen the New York Times reported earlier this week where there was a suppressed threat assessment that comes out annually that in fact talks about white supremacy, and that these groups as being really the most prominent threat to our society right now on American soil, that it is in fact white domestic terrorists. And so just thinking about that, the implications of you have a William Barr, who, as Dr. Carr says, is in fact the toady of the son of a Klansman, when you think that he has weaponized the Department of Justice for his own kind of happenings. When we look at that and we think about this report that was suppressed, that did in fact talk about the violence, I'm just considering and thinking about, well, as a person who has a military background, it was good to see Malcolm on. But one of the things that I would love to ask him is, when we think about those folks that have gone and they have been in war and served abroad during many conflicts fighting terrorism, would you consider a Donald John Trump to be a person that is radicalizing these people that we're seeing here on American soil? So I think that in addition to these are threats that we're going to continue to see, to also understand, if I've said before earlier, that, even after an election, prayerfully, it'll be in favor of Biden and Harris, that there is much work to be done. It is not time to be complacent. It is not time to just say, well, I voted and they won, I've done my job. It is really time to be prepared for really the hard and heavy work that is going to be state, local, and federal government cleanup, and really just protections around these people who have a commander in Donald John Trump that still feel that they have been called to order and will obey him no matter, where he may find himself post the election.
This is what I've been saying, Reese. What Donald Trump has unleashed, what Republicans have supported, when these fools in Congress, by them shaming and blasting others for wearing masks, these are the people who stormed the state capitol in Idaho, in Michigan, in Wisconsin. And that's what you're seeing. You're going to see more of that because these deranged individuals think that they are true patriots, and they have no problem. They are racist against black people. The Proud Boys are racist as well. I don't care if some dude out there who's Latino, who's heading the Proud Boys. There are Latinos who are racist. And so folk had better understand these folks are not going away, and the Republican Party, knowing full well how their base is shrinking and shrinking, they're going to be even more appealing to these bigots and these thugs, these white domestic terrorists.
Absolutely. We have currently COVID-infected Senator Mike Lee, who said today on Twitter that democracy is not the objective, and actually that rank democracy is a threat to liberty and things of that nature. That is a call to these militias. I call them terrorists. What I'm really sick of is the fact that if this was a group of Muslims, or if it was, as you said, Black Lives Matter, these would be called terrorists. This would be called a terrorist cell. But instead, because they're white, they're called militias, and it almost indicates some sort of patriotism when in fact it is sedition. The same kind of sedition that that William Barr wants to charge Black Lives Matter protesters with. Where are the sedition charges for these people who are trying to overthrow government? Where is the law and order party when it comes to these terrorists who are trying to attack and murder, kidnap government officials? Where is the law and order when it comes to that? But as we point out many times on this show, when it comes to Republicans, their law and order is not about law and order in terms of the laws as written in the Constitution, because whenever they don't care about that, it is about the order of white supremacy. And so that's why we do not see them condemning or discouraging this. We actually see them encouraging it and radicalizing it. Stand back and stand by is a hold tight until we need to call upon you. But these people are trying to stockpile things. The way that they got these people on these charges was when they were trying to exchange the money for the explosives and the ammunitions and things like that. And so this is something to absolutely be very, very wary of. More Black people have to have guns. I'm not saying we start a race war. Be clear about that. I'm not advocating violence. But we have to be prepared to defend ourselves. Make sure you get licensed guns. Make sure that you have all your paperwork in order, but go ahead and make sure that you're not caught out there, because I personally don't think that these people are very much in our neighborhoods. These are in mostly white areas that these people get radicalized in. But just in case, it don't hurt to have some kind of something stowed away in case shit goes down.
Greg.
No, Reese's right. Roland, since this criminal enterprise began, this settler colony we call the United States now, it's been building toward this. I don't know if anybody could have predicted that there would be one event that might be the event horizon to forestall the inevitable. But when you're talking about a white nationalist settler colony project, settler colonialism, this is inevitable. And, Malcolm mentioned Timothy McVeigh, a military veteran, Desert Storm, who came, and when you listen to his testimony, this man who blew up the Oklahoma Federal Building and killed a little bunch of Black babies who were in that daycare that day, in case people don't remember, he saw himself as a patriot, and he was. And by patriot, I mean not what we be talking about, patriotism. No, I'm talking about what patriot really means in a settler colony. It means a white nationalist. So when we saw these people, everywhere but the United States, ISIS is referred to as Daesh. That's what it's called in the Muslim world and, coverage of, but here in the United States, it's called ISIS. Fine. What we saw in Michigan with what some people are calling vanilla ISIS is the one wing of the white nationalist project. They're all working together. Understand, another wing is the Michigan State Supreme Court that ruled last week 4-3 that the governor of the state doesn't have the power to extend the emergency measures that prevented perhaps as many as 74,000 deaths with COVID-19. Another wing is Neil Gorsuch and them on the Supreme Court who want to revive that same doctrine in the federal level, what they call the non-delegation doctrine. So when vanilla ISIS was meeting to hatch this plot, they weren't meeting in Michigan. They met in Dublin, Ohio. I went to grad school and law school at Ohio State in Columbus. Dublin is the Columbus suburb. So another element of the White Nationalist Party is the Secretary of State, Frank LaRosa, who's another member of vanilla ISIS. He just happens to be an elected member. So when he lost his case a couple of days ago, when the Ohio Supreme Court says, no, you can put more than one ballot box out. He says, fine, but they all got to be at a single location. So I'll put a bunch of them around the one polling, the office in each county. Understand, they're all working together. Greg Abbott, the governor of your home state, Texas, is a member of the White Nationalist Terrorist Party, except he's an elected member. So when he says put one box per county, he's working hand in hand. And all Vanilla ISIS is, like all Timothy McVeigh thought he was, they are the paramilitary wing. Finally, Jamie Raskin had the most important event that took place last week. It wasn't the debate or the screaming match, not the screaming match, Donald Trump screaming at Joe Biden. That same day is when you were talking to Malcolm, and you mentioned it, Roland. It was the hearing that Jamie Raskin, Congressman Raskin, held on Capitol Hill, the Subcommittee on Civil Rights and Liberties, about the fact that these paramilitary folks have invaded law enforcement, and he used the 2006 FBI report, and this FBI decided that, well, they're not going to testify, they're not going to come. Why? Law enforcement is riddled with white supremacists.
Yep.
When the Vietnam War was over, some of them got on a plane and fought in what used to be Rhodesia on the side against the Africans in Zimbabwe. And then Dylan Roof, when he was arrested, you know why he had a old South Africa patch on his arm when he went in there and shot up these people at the church, in Emmanuel Church in South Carolina? Because he saw himself as law enforcement. Law enforcement, the White Nationalist Party that is silent about this, and Vanilla ISIS are all part of the same thrust. They are going to run white supremacy till the wheels run off. And if we don't understand that, everything else we think we understand, to quote Neely Fuller and Francis Cress Welsing, will only confuse us.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, the folks at Seek.com, black-owned company founded by Mary Spio. They, of course, a virtual reality company. You can check out their content at Seek.com, CEEK.com. You can do so, of course, with these VR headsets. You can look at it, of course, on your regular device or your pad or your computer. But if you want to experience being in the room, you can use this headset right here. All you simply do is just pop in your cell phone in here, pop it on, and then put this headset on, and you can literally experience their content in virtual reality. And so allows for you to do a 360-degree view of the room. But also, folks, they have the 360-degree 4D headphones right here. These are Bluetooth headphones. They have complete surround sound in terms of as you hear the particular music. Gamers love them as well when they're playing their games. And so it's just phenomenal bass in these headphones as well. You can get one or both devices at Seek.com using this promo code RMVIP 2020, RMVIP 2020. So we certainly thank the folks at Seek.com for being a partner with us here at Roland Martin Unfiltered. All right. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. This breaking news came in, and I must admit, I'm not really tripping on this whole deal here. You're going to love this one, Mustafa. Stephen Miller has tested positive for COVID. Per a senior administration official, adds Miller has been working remotely for the last 5 days, testing negative every day through yesterday, and is in quarantine after a positive test today. This is from Hallie Jackson. Stephen Miller, the white supremacist working in the White House. But here's why, y'all. Here's why this is karma. Because his wife, Katie Miller, was talking trash yesterday about Kamala Harris because the Kamala Harris team wanted to have a plexiglass between her and Vice President Mike Pence. And so she said, well, if Kamala wants to build a wall between her and Pence, fine, let's do it. Now your husband, Katie, you talking trash about Kamala. Now your husband got coronavirus, which means you likely got coronavirus. This, Mustafa, it shows the sheer ignorance how the White House, that Amy Coney Barrett White House Rose Garden ceremony, where they were just hugging and kissing each other, they were sitting there passing the coronavirus around like it was a blunt. Puff, puff, pass, pass.
Like a blunt. I like that. I mean, the reality of the situation is that we need plexiglass, probably something stronger than plexiglass, between the Trump administration and the rest of America. These folks have, they live in this millionaire bubble. I used to say a billionaire bubble, but we know that Trump doesn't have $1 billion. And they're so disconnected from what everyday people are dealing with. How in the world are you going to have a conversation to stop the stimulus checks that need to come, to stop small businesses from receiving the dollars that they need to be able to move forward? You say you open up the economy and you downplay COVID-19 because you say you want to get the economy going again, but yet you do everything to damage small businesses, which were a huge part of our economy. And then you tell folks not to wear masks, so more people get sick, more people can't work. I mean, it's so nonsensical, the things that they do, but at the same time, they are dangerous because they're sending a message across the country that is one that places people's lives in jeopardy on not a daily basis, but on an hourly basis. So I don't want to see anybody get sick. I don't want to see anybody die from COVID-19, but karma sure is and y'all can fill in the blank.
Well, you talk a little trash, Lauren, and all of a sudden now it's in your house.
Yeah, well, they have been trying to, the President of the United States has been ignoring this crisis since day one. He's tried to PR his way out of it since day one. They've never had any comprehensive strategy for it. Now we have over 210,000 people dead. Now he's, of course, pulling the stimulus. I think Pelosi might have something when she says he's so amped up on steroids that may be affecting his judgment. But then again, his judgment wasn't very good to begin with. So how do we know it's affecting his judgment? They're a disaster. And the fact that they're going out like this in late October, right when the campaign, when really you should be so concentrated on the campaign, your strategy for the campaign should be taking hold. The fact that they're crashing and burning because of their own stupid, irresponsible, dangerous decision-making is very fitting. It's extremely fitting. It's also just dangerous for our national security. We had a COVID outbreak, obviously, Pentagon today, because they're just stupid. They're stupid people. They don't know what they're doing, and quite frankly, we can't get them out of here fast enough.
I don't want nobody to be sick, nobody to die from coronavirus. But Joseph, when that black preacher in Virginia ignored all the rules and kept having church, I call him stuck on stupid. I'm telling you right now, Donald Trump, Stephen Miller, Kayleigh McEnany, Chris Christie, Senator Mike Lee, Senator Ron Johnson, all them dumbasses who were at the White House hugging, kissing, sitting next to each other, not wearing masks, acting like this was no big deal. Now they sitting here dealing with it. Rudy Giuliani on TV coughing, said, I got my test earlier, we'll see. This is what happens when you're stupid. This is what happens when you ignore the doctors and ignore the scientists, and then last night Trump up there, showing he the big man, up there wheezing just to get his little dictator video. They are stupid. Put a damn mask on, social distance, but you can't tell arrogant ass folks nothing, Joseph.
Look, I will say this: if we're in a serious boxing match, then people should protect themselves at all times. And if you don't protect yourself at all times, then obviously you might get caught with a roundhouse to the face. So I think at some point, there has to be a level of personal responsibility. People have to assume the responsibility. You had former Vice President Joe Biden talking about states and governors, and people have to assume responsibility. Ultimately, also people have to assume responsibility. And if their choice is to not wear a mask, then they have to accept the consequences that go along with it. And I think as a society, I think I said a little earlier, the issue that we have in America is that America is founded on individual freedoms and liberties. And that makes it very difficult in this environment from some people to understand that it's incumbent on us to consider the needs of our neighbors. And that's not just about COVID-19. That's also about talking about justice and for black and brown people all across this great land. This inability to understand the true nature of the problems facing the person next to you and to be willing to compromise in anything that we do on behalf of that next person because we're all part of this shared fabric. That is, to me, the root cause of all of this, bigger than the partisan divide that we face today. And I think that if we can start to examine things through that particular prism, it might be easier for us to understand how we got here.
It's real simple. If you work for that fool and you stupid enough not to wear a mask, your ass deserve everything you get. And if he tell you take it off, nah, damn that, Joseph. Look, Joseph, if my wife was like, damn that, I'm going to sorority meetings, I'm doing this here, her ass would be quarantining. I'm telling you right now, this fool telling reporters, take that thing off. How many White House reporters have gotten coronavirus? Kayleigh McEnany, her little silly ass, addressing reporters with no mask on. Well, I've had negative tests the last 3 days. 4th day, she get it. Man, put a mask on. But no, they won't even do that because they're arrogant. They're arrogant. And if you are arrogant enough not to put a mask on working in closed quarters and you get it, yo, that's on you. You can't say it's on anybody else. That's on you. And if you work for an idiot like Trump who tells you take it off, his valet got it. His body man got it. You got White House staff. I've been to the White House. It's old black people who work in the White House. It's black people who are dying from coronavirus. This man could very well infect White House staff, mostly black people, because his arrogant ass won't actually follow the CDC guidelines. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, we support black-owned businesses here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. The folks at Seek.com, they, of course, have a couple of things. Their virtual reality headset right here, folks. You just drop your cell phone right in. You can look at their content on Seek.com or look at 360-degree video right here through this headset. It's an actually, it's pretty fabulous to actually be in the room, in the place with that virtual reality video. They also have these great 360-degree 4D headphones. Gamers love them. You can listen to music, watch videos, great surround sound. All of that's great. These two devices here you can get from Seek.com, CEEK.com. Use the promo code RMVIP2020. RMVIP2020. And we certainly thank Mary Spiel, the founder of the company, and the folks at Seek.com for being supporters of Roland Martin Unfiltered. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. The debate that took place on Saturday between him and Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham is real concerned about this particular race and how it will actually impact the voters there. He complained often in that particular debate and then about Jamie Harrison, all his money he is being raised. One of the issues that came up dealt with that of the Supreme Court. And remember, Lindsey Graham said, use my own words against me. Even in Trump's final year, if a Supreme Court vacancy comes up, we're not going to fill it. Jamie Harrison reminded him of that at the debate on Saturday.
Son, you change the rules. He changes the rules every time he gets. You know, Senator, you said, use my words against me. And you said it after the Kavanaugh meetings, not before the Kavanaugh hearings, after the Kavanaugh hearings. And your words, your promise was that no judicial nominee should be considered or approved or what have you in the last year of an election. And you even named President Trump when you said it. And so this is my thing. You know, my grandfather always taught me, he said, Jamie, a man is only as good as his word. Well, Senator, how good is your word when you made a promise to the American people? And even more, you made a promise to the folks in South Carolina that you wouldn't be doing what you're doing right now. It reminds me of playing Monopoly with my son. You change the...
I showed you earlier that plexiglass that was actually set up between the two of them, and the issue, of course, the pandemic also came up in this debate. This is what Harrison had to say about that.
This has impacted me personally, Judy. My grandaunt Gladys passed away this July in a nursing home by herself. That is the story that so many Americans are experiencing right now. And part of why we're experiencing, no, we're not going to blame the president. We shouldn't blame the president. We shouldn't blame anybody for the inception of this disease. But where blame should come is how we handle this disease, whether or not we take it seriously. You know, tonight I am taking it seriously. That's why I put this plexiglass up, because, you know, it's not just about me. It's about the people in my life that I have to take care of as well. My two boys, my wife, my grandmother. We need to make sure we are addressing the issue here in South Carolina. We have had 750,000 people unemployed here in South Carolina because of the COVID. We've had 3,000 people to die. We've had over 100,000 to be infected. Let's take this issue seriously and do all that we can to not only take care of ourselves, but each other.
Joining us right now is Meg Kennard. She is the Associated Press correspondent there in South Carolina. She, of course, has been covering this race, was at the debate. She's national politics reporter for Associated Press. All right, Meg, give us a sense. That plexiglass was pretty interesting. Was anyone aware that Harrison was going to bring that with him?
Certainly none of us there in the audience. And hello, Roland. It's good to be back with you as always. You know, when I walked into the debate hall that night, a couple hours before game time, and saw that partition, I was kind of wondering, okay, which candidate's side is that? Because they weren't labeled. And through talking to some folks there, realized that that was what Jamie Harrison had requested. His campaign told me that they wanted that set up pretty much because Lindsey Graham, through his roles in the Senate and heading up the Judiciary Committee and his relationship with President Trump, he's been around a lot of people who've recently released the results of positive COVID tests and come down with COVID. And so the Harrison campaign said that per CDC guidelines and recommendations that anybody who has contact with someone who turns up to be positive, that they should quarantine. And now, you know, both men said that they tested negative the day before the debate, but Harrison's campaign said they weren't taking any chances for those reasons that Jamie noted during the debate, but also perhaps to make a point that was very visible.
What has been the reaction in the state to this particular debate? There were a lot of very pointed questions. These moderators should have been there for the first Trump-Biden debate. They definitely kept people on point and on task. But it seemed as if Graham was real nervous. He was rocking constantly the whole time. He knows that he could very well lose this race. He has not faced any type of opposition like this since he has run since he's been a United States Senator.
This is definitely the closest general election that Senator Graham has had in South Carolina. I'm not sure if it's something we talked about last time, but 6 years ago when he ran, the fundraising in that race didn't even get up to $8 million. And now we're talking about more than $60 million. So this is definitely a different kind of campaign. But folks who watched that debate, I don't really think it changed a whole lot of minds. I think that both candidates got a lot of their points out there and spoke to constituencies that are likely watching them very closely, but already probably supporting them. And so for that sliver of voters in the middle who've yet to make up their minds, who aren't sure which candidate's going to get their support, they probably still have a little bit more thinking to do since, there was a lot of very partisan talk. There was a lot of painting this race in kind of national strokes in terms of, tying each candidate to a more national ideology and not just representing the issues of South Carolina. We all know that the balance of the Senate is at stake. And so there's a lot going on there. But all in all, in these closing weeks, these candidates are really going to have to continue to get their message out because, as we've seen, from all appearances, this race has tightened up a whole lot in the last couple of months.
Where is it going to be decided? And again, why all of a sudden is it tightened? Is it because there are a number of people who are simply dissatisfied with Donald Trump's job? I mean, look, this is considered a deep red state, and Republicans look at this as a guaranteed victory. Donald Trump is up, in a significant way over Joe Biden in South Carolina. But why is this race tight?
Yeah, this is still South Carolina, where Republicans are in every statewide elected office, control both chambers of the legislature, and most of our congressional delegation. So, a South Carolinian, a Democrat, hasn't been sent to Washington from South Carolina statewide in quite some time. And so really, when you look at the voters in this state who do vote straight party, a lot of them vote Republican straight party. And if those voters are going and supporting Donald Trump, then in order to not also be supporting Lindsey Graham, they wouldn't be able to do that and would have to kind of parse out those Republican offices. Jamie Harrison knows that he needs to be able to cleave away some of that support and continues to make that argument. But one of the reasons why this race has gotten so much attention is because from its very inception, Jamie got a lot of national attention, got national fundraising dollars. That's why you've seen the fundraising on this side of the race totally balloon compared to cycles past. Democrats in South Carolina generally don't raise this kind of money, and a lot of his money has come from elsewhere. Those people can't vote here, but they certainly have been able to get Jamie the money that he's needed to stay on the airwaves, to do the kind of advertising that a lot of Democrats in this region generally don't have the opportunity to do, particularly with Senator Graham's position as chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee. There are a lot of eyes on him in that role as well. So given the Supreme Court nominating process that's going on, that just adds another layer of interest to this contest.
But also, I just saw that outside PAC's about to drop $10 million to help Lindsey Graham, so he's certainly not complaining about their outside money.
Yeah, the Senate Leadership Fund has recently announced that they're going to be spending $10 million in the closing weeks of this race to support Senator Graham. So certainly there's been a lot of PAC activity going on both sides, but that is certainly a last-minute kind of sign of strength in terms of helping keep his message out there. Senator Graham's fundraising has not been shabby. He and Jamie Harrison have been just about matched in terms of the amount of money that they themselves through their campaigns have been bringing in. So everyone here, as well as on national cable as well, but there have been a whole lot of ads being run. You can barely turn on the TV without seeing one from one side or the other, or a political action committee or another third-party group. So, yes, it's going to get even more intense in the last couple of weeks.
Last question for you. Jamie Harrison desperately needs massive black turnout. Coronavirus has obviously impacted all of that in terms of being able to directly engage with voters. Are we seeing significant amounts of energy among African Americans in South Carolina getting behind his candidacy?
You're right. He certainly needs that. And a lot of the voters that I've talked to throughout the campaign, particularly black voters, since they do make up most of the Democratic voters here, are very excited about Jamie. Obviously, South Carolina already has a black senator in Tim Scott, who happens to be a Republican. But in terms of Jamie's candidacy, yes, it does seem like there's a lot of interest, particularly among black voters. I was out at the Richland County voting office today because in-person absentee voting started here in South Carolina. And I talked to many voters, some of them African American, who are very excited about this race. And they're out there on the very first day that they could actually vote in person to go ahead and cast their ballots. So among all voters in South Carolina, I think that there is, we went through that whole presidential primary process. There's been a whole lot of attention on this state for a very long time.
And that was massive turnout in that primary.
That was a lot of turnout. You're right. Record-setting turnout in the Democratic primary, which was open to voters in both parties. You didn't just have to be a Democrat, but that does certainly portend that we'll be looking at significant numbers of voters in the general election, too.
All right, then. Meg Kennard, Associated Press. We surely appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Always good to see you.
All right, folks. Back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks at Seek.com, of course, they black-owned company founded by Mary Spiel. They have a couple of great products that you can actually get. This is their VR headset. This headset, folks, allows for you to actually take your cell phone, pop it right into here, close it up, and then you can actually watch the VR content, the virtual reality content on Seek.com right there through your phone. Actually, it's pretty cool. You can also look at 360-degree video from other websites as well, and it puts you literally right there where the video was shot. And so they have this particular headset right here. They also have their 360-degree 4D headphones. And so these headphones right here, which are Bluetooth. Also, they have the headset, which you use for when you, if you're for all you gamers out there. And then, of course, it has this amazing sound, really, which actually covers around. Typically, just have the headphones just right here, but this actually has a sound that goes all around your head. I love these headphones. Love listening to music with them and watching videos as well. And so, all you got to do, folks, is go to Seek.com, Seek.com. Use the promo code RMVIP2020. That's RMVIP2020 to actually try these out. And so that's what we want you to do. All right, folks. So again, go to Seek.com.